ferocious dog was trapped in a deep abyss, growling, bleeding, impossible to approach. They called him feral, dangerous, unreachable. But when rescuers got closer, they froze. What this ferocious dog did next shocked the entire rescue team and revealed a secret no one could have imagined. It wasn't rage. It was something else. It started with a sound. Every night, just as the sun dipped below the trees, locals near a hollow ridge would hear it. Long, low howls that echoed through the woods like something out of a nightmare. People whispered it might be a coyote, maybe even a wolf. But those who lived closest to the ravine said it was different. The sound wasn't wild. It was wounded, angry, desperate. After days of reports, a group of hikers finally spotted something far below the cliffs. A large animal trapped at the bottom of a jagged abyss. From the top, all they could see was dark fur and glowing eyes reflecting the light. It growled constantly, pacing in circles, but clearly wasn't able to climb out. They reported it to Animal Control, who arrived the next morning with a trained rescue team and full gear. As they approached the edge of the ravine, the growls turned to furious barking. The dog, yes, now clearly a German shepherd, bared his teeth, foam clinging to the corners of his mouth. His body was tense, coiled, wounded. His leg was visibly injured, and one of his paws was twisted unnaturally. He's feral, one of the team members muttered. Completely gone. But the lead rescuer, Marcus, didn't agree. He squinted through binoculars, watching closely. No, he said slowly. He's not attacking. He's warning us. There's something else down there. Still, getting close was risky. They couldn't risk sedating him from that height, and the terrain was too steep for vehicles. Marcus volunteered to rappel down into the abyss alone, knowing full well what could happen. The others hesitated. Suit me up, Marcus said. He's not fighting us. He's protecting something. At the time, no one could have guessed how right he was. The ropes creaked as Marcus lowered himself slowly into the pit. Loose earth crumbled beneath his boots, and the scent of damp soil and fear thickened with every step downward. His heart pounded, not from the height, but from what waited below. The German shepherd stood rigid near the far wall, hackles raised, eyes locked on him like twin torches in the shadows. Marcus kept his voice low, steady. Easy, buddy. I'm not here to hurt you. The dog snarled, backing into a corner, limping on his injured leg. But he didn't charge. He didn't bark. He just watched, his breath heavy, teeth bared, body trembling. It was the kind of tension that could snap at any second or melt with the right word. Marcus crouched a few feet away, removing his gloves to show his bare hands. You've been down here a while, haven't you? He whispered. You're tired. I can see it. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, the dog lowered his head just a little. His teeth disappeared behind his lips. A signal, subtle but clear. I'm listening. Marcus reached slowly into his pack, pulling out a sealed pouch of wet food. He opened it, setting it gently on the ground, then scooted it forward. The dog didn't move. Instead, he glanced over his shoulder toward a small pile of branches and leaves behind him. That's when Marcus saw it. Just beyond the dog's body, barely visible in the shadows, was something small, something moving. He squinted, heart clenching. Two tiny shapes, fragile, breathing puppies. The ferocious dog hadn't been guarding himself. He was guarding his family. And now Marcus understood the growls, the resistance, the fear. This wasn't a threat. This was a father, willing to fight the world to keep his babies alive. For a long moment Marcus couldn't speak. He'd seen a lot during his years in rescue. Abuse cases, abandoned litters, terrified animals, lashing out. But this was different. The dog, still bruised and bleeding, had wedged his body between Marcus and the tiny lives behind him. Even in his broken state, he was shielding them with everything he had. Marcus swallowed hard and radioed to his team above. "We've got puppies down here." 2, maybe 3 eyes just opened. There was a pause on the line, then a soft, stunned reply. "Copy that." He turned his attention back to the dog slowly, setting aside his gear and easing down to sit. "They're yours, aren't they?" he said gently. "You stayed down here to protect them. That's why you didn't climb out when you could have." The dog let out a low whine and looked over his shoulder again. The puppies squirmed in. A shallow depression, tucked beneath leaves in the dog's body heat. They were skinny, dirty, but alive, barely. Marcus knew time was running out. He took the food pouch again and slid it toward the dog. This time the shepherd stepped forward slowly and sniffed it. He didn't snatch it. He didn't growl. He simply picked it up in his mouth and turned, gently setting it down in front of the pups. The rescuers above watched in stunned silence as the ferocious dog, once thought to be a danger, lowered himself beside his babies and nudged one forward to eat. He even licked its back, a monster number a father. And in that instant the story changed. This wasn't about taming a dangerous stray. This was about rescuing a hero who had already been doing the impossible to save his children alone. Marcus didn't waste another second. "We need a second line." In a padded lift basket, he called through his radio. "We're bringing them all up." Father and pups, the team above, scrambled into action. Within minutes, the equipment was being lowered carefully into the ravine. Marcus stayed close to the German shepherd, who now sat protectively beside his pups, but no longer growled. There was something in his eyes now. Fatigue, yes, but also trust. He'd made a choice. When the basket reached the ground, Marcus approached slowly, speaking in a low, calm tone. "We're getting you out of here, big guy. All of you." He carefully wrapped the puppies in a warm blanket, placing them in a crate with heat packs. One of the pups barely stirred, eyes fluttering. "This one's critical," Marcus warned. "But there's a chance." Now came the harder part, getting the father inside. The dog stood up slowly, limping, clearly in pain. But when Marcus gestured to the crate where the pups lay, the shepherd stepped forward. With one final look toward the dark walls around him, he climbed into the lift basket and lay down beside them, without a sound. When the rigging started pulling them skyward, the rescuers held their breath. Above ground, the scene was silent as the basket emerged from the shadows. Onlookers gasped. There he was. This once feral creature curled around his babies like a guardian angel. No growling, no snapping, just a father finally getting help. Vets were ready. They rushed the pups into care and checked the dog for fractures. He had deep cuts and a sprained limb, but he'd live. News spread fast. Ferocious dog found protecting puppies in forest abyss. But to those who had witnessed it, he wasn't ferocious anymore. He was a hero. Recovery wasn't easy, but it was full of hope. The smallest puppy now, named Luna, was to Chango for days. Vets gave her round-the-clock care, warming her tiny body and feeding her, drop by drop. The other two pups, Dusty and Scout, grew stronger each day, cuddling into their father's side in the clinic kennel. And Echo, as the team had named him, never left them. Even as his wounds were cleaned and stitched, his eyes were always on his pups. Slowly, the fear that had once defined him began to fade. He no longer flinched at every movement. He accepted food from volunteers. He even began to wag his tail when he saw Marcus, the man who had descended into the abyss to bring them back. Echo and his pups were moved to a foster home run by a retired animal control officer. There, for the first time, Echo slept on a soft bed. He played. He watched the pups wrestle in the grass, ears perked and proud. He was no longer surviving. He was living. And then the miracle came full circle. One afternoon, a young boy wandered too close to the ravine where Echo had once been trapped. He slipped, screaming as he dangled over the edge. Echo, who had been walking nearby with his foster mom, bolted. He raced to the edge, grabbed the boy's jacket in his teeth, and held firm until help arrived. The story went viral. Dog once feared as Ferocious saves child from cliff. Echo was no longer the snarling ghost of the abyss. He was a symbol of strength, of fatherhood, of second chances. The final image, Echo curled on a blanket beneath the stars, his three pups asleep against his chest, finally safe.